What is the controversy of fracking? Why is fracking so controversial? You have probably heard about fracking at some point, most likely on the news. Of course, there are benefits to fracking. This is due to the fact that it leads to an increase in oil production. However, there are also many cons that we should take into consideration. First, there are two different practices that we must be aware of before we dive into this topic. The first is hydraulic fracturing, and the second is tar sands extracting. The process of hydraulic fracturing goes like this. It involves the use of an oil or gas well. The well is used to send water, sand, and various chemicals downwards where it hits a rock that is deep underground. The well is strategically placed and formed in a way so that the removal of the rock triggers the release of oil. In other cases, it is done so that the oil is easier to extract. This is where the term fracturing comes from. It is because of that rock that is being fractured in order to expose the oil. Why is fracturing so controversial? Many people have raised concern over this for several reasons. Now we know that hydraulic fracturing is done locally. If you live in the United States, you have likely seen hydraulic fracturing being conducted within the state you reside in. Even if you support this practice, there are several possible outcomes that you must be aware of. Let us examine another picture that is used to demonstrate the process of hydraulic fracturing. As you will observe, you will be able to see the potential risks that come with this practice. The well goes very deep into the ground, so deep that it is possible that it can in fact cause tremors. What is a tremor, you might ask? A tremor is when the earth moves in such a way that humans are able to feel it. When a tremor is defined as such, the word earthquake probably comes to mind. If so, you are correct to tie these two together. It is entirely possible that an error in hydraulic fracturing can in fact cause an earthquake. According to USGS, 2% of the earthquakes that have occurred in the United States are believed to have been caused by hydraulic fracturing. Another concern with hydraulic fracturing is the use of the chemicals that are sent into the well. Concerns come from people who realize the possibility of those chemicals escaping from the well and polluting the surrounding land. The Natural Resources Defense Council has stated that the fluids used to perform fracturing contain 97% water. The concern with the fluid comes from the presence of lead and benzene. These are both known to have bad effects on the environment. The biggest problem with these are the effects that it has on people, as they are known to cause health problems. It is also a possibility that these chemicals can leak into the groundwater that people consume. This is arguably a much greater possibility than the first outcome. We then have the topic of tar sands extracting. At first glance, it may seem that this process is a lot safer than hydraulic fracturing. We must first understand what tar sands are. Simply put, these are oil sands, and these contain a lot of oil that can be used. Oil sands are so thick that they are unable to flow in this state. How are oil sands extracted? This will depend on the location of the deposit. Oil sands are obtained by mining the resource. In this process, they use hot water to help extract the bitumen from the sands. The deeper the deposit is, the deeper that it will have to be mined to. Open pit mining is one of the first practices that comes to mind. As you can see in the picture, this practice occurs on the surface. The requirement is that the deposit is no deeper than 100 meters from the surface. If this condition is met, then open pit mining can take place. The next practice is known as steam-assisted gravity drainage. This process involves the use of wells, since the deposit is deeper than 100 meters. Since this is the case, the process of open pit mining cannot be used. In this process, the bitumen is heated to the point where it is able to flow through the well and to the surface. In the picture, you will be able to see one of these machines that they use for the process. They are used for crude oil drilling. If you live in or have ever been to the American West, it is likely that you have seen these machines being used in the open. What does tar sands extraction do to the environment? Open pit mining does have its impact on the environment. This is because the land that is used for open pit mining is torn up and basically devoid of life. After the mining is done, the people that conduct the mining may have to revert the land as close as possible to its original state. This is good, but it will take many years before that land is remotely similar to its original state. The biggest issue with tar sands extraction is the impact that it has on wildlife and the environment, as well as its ability to pollute the groundwater, something that the process of tar sands extraction shares with hydraulic fracturing. Many people will use this as a cause for global climate change. It's a common belief that the Earth is getting warmer as a result of so many gases being used, and this is the step where the whole process begins. These issues are so controversial because it has the potential to put the Earth in an irreversible state. If not irreversible, it will not be reverted to the way it was in our lifetime. What do I believe about solutions that can be employed in order to stop the pollution? I don't believe that people want to destroy the Earth. I do believe that the human race is heavily reliant on greenhouse gases, and most people believe that it is more convenient to use gases rather than keeping the Earth in a habitable state. As long as people are reliant on greenhouse gases, they will make the necessary steps occur in order to keep the supply running. So much of our lives are run by gases. Most likely your car is powered by gasoline, and all the airplanes in the sky use it as well. The only way to move away from this is to offer alternatives. We need to find alternatives in our lives that will not require the consumption of oil. The electric car is a very good example of this. If every car on the road was electric and had zero emissions, this would not be as much of a concern right now. According to the UCAR, Center for Science Education, we cannot control climate change. Climate change is something that is naturally occurring. What we can do, however, is prevent the climate from warming. If we do this, then we will not have to worry so much about the Earth getting too warm. Now you know what the effects of fracking are. With this knowledge, you now know what the potential dangers are of fracking. You may have heard the phrase, "Are you fracking kidding me?" before. People have been angry about these practices for a long time now. The demand for oil has gotten so bad that we have had to extract it locally. As I personally look back in my life, I see how I could have been a potential victim of fracking. As I grew up in the state of Colorado, I witnessed firsthand as these practices were put into use. I have seen different mining operations being conducted in the Rocky Mountains. I have seen fracking occurring right next to the interstate. To think that the well at my house was connected to an aquifer, I could have been a potential victim of fracking at any point in my life. With this knowledge, you will now be able to form a more informed opinion on the topic of fracking. Thank you very much for your time. Have a blessed day.